Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com. That's chumbacasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
So I've really been dying to know how the meeting went at Mountain Lakes for you.
It was a good meeting, informative. They were definitely encouraging, not overly, definitely wasn't a hard sell. It's like when you said no, it's like, okay, sorry. The offer closes as soon as you go out the door. And, I think if I would have in a little bit different stage of my travels, it would definitely be worth it. Yeah, if you're going to be on the road extensively for more than 3 years, yeah, it's a way to go.
Yeah. We probably would have said yes also if things have been a little bit different for us as well. I'm glad that there was a no pressure situation for you. We definitely started out like that, but there towards the end when we were like, look, no, I'm sorry. The demeanor did change a little bit. And then me being in marketing and whatnot, I had so many critiques for their system. Like, for example, you're trying to sell camping and nature to people who want camping and nature, but you're spending an hour in a stuffy building trying to
Hmm.
do it. And all the whole time, like we're just staring out the window, like, oh, not staring, because it's like face to face.
Right.
And that would be rude, but me and my husband both are just looking out the window like, wow, it's such a nice, pretty day out, and we're stuck in here. And I think a much easier sell would be for them to actually do less of the talking and the statistics and the math and like all of that's good. But if you're going to put us on a go-kart and take us to see a go-kart, sorry, a golf cart,
Right.
and that would be more fun, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? If you're going to put us on a golf cart at some point anyway and take us to various places around the camp and show us things, why not just do the entire presentation like that, And
Yeah.
you go sit on the dock for
Yeah.
a little while and talk about this. And it's like, well, let's go see something else. And then you take us um over to the park, the little dog park, and we sit there for a little bit under the trees and we talk about something. And then we go check out the cabins and we talk about something. I think that would be a lot easier for them to sell. But
Right.
um I loved that place. It it really satisfied my need for community.
Hmm.
I love how they were doing that, and I would love to set something up. I think all communities and like little neighborhoods should be set up like that, where most everything's just a bike ride away, and
Hmm.
you can they do little community events and things for the kids, and I loved everything about that place, but situations and circumstances and whatnot, but. Really glad that I met you there, and you have a very elaborate RV that
Yeah.
caught everybody's attention, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. When did you start camping? You've been camping your whole life, or
My
was it
whole life.
something? Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
My dad used to take us out, and that for the grand epic experience, when I was 3, I think, was my first trip. And I feel like I've told the story a million times, but
Not to me.
it's kind of iconic. But um, we had a Chevy Impala, like one of the old 22-foot long 4-door. And we had a
What
pop
year?
up camper,
What
and
year was the
so,
Impala?
huh,
What year was the Impala? Roundabout's okay.
70,
Okay.
71.
My uncle has a 57 that he redid.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah.
nice.
They were a beast, man. They were huge. That's when like there were seat belts in the cars, but you really kind of stuffed them in the back seat to get them out of the way because
Yeah.
siblings would use them as a weapon against each other. Um, or I would be sleeping in the package. You used to call it the package shelf in the
Yep.
back, right? And
Yep.
I would lay in the back of the package shelf, just looking up, and we would be driving at nighttime. You can like watch the stars and everything.
Hmm.
It's like going across the desert. I remember that, and I was like 3, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we took the pop up camper on the Impala and went from Georgia down to Big Bend, California up the Pacific Highway. I think we ended up somewhere in Washington and then worked our way back. And it was a 6-week trip. There were 6 of us. Um, and yeah, that just kind of got into my DNA at that point, I think.
So where are you from, like originally? You said you started in Georgia. Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Georgia.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm born and raised in Alabama, just next door. So similar dynamic there with all that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just I get it it kind of reignited camping did reignited with me. I've got 2 boys and they went through the scouts program.
Okay, that's what we
So,
do.
every other weekend, I was camping doing something with
Yeah,
them and they just loved it and when they were in 2012 I was like they're about the right age, it's like you try to have some of those impressionable experiences that kind of sets their character a little bit, I think. Um, and so I tried to replicate the trip that my dad took me on with them. We didn't have a pop up. I just had the Volkswagen Jetta wagon and some tents, and we just set out and went to Glacier National Park and worked our way down through some of the Rockies and back home. But that was a 28-day trip. Um,
awesome.
yeah, it was pretty awesome.
So do they go with you regularly still, or they off doing their own thing?
Yes and yes. So the oldest is out of college. He's been working a couple of years. He's now engaged. So I'm quickly losing,
Cool.
access to that time. Uh,
Temporarily.
Temporary, yeah, until he starts having kids, and then it'll
Yeah.
start to walk.
And then it will reignite a whole new era.
Yeah, and the youngest is, he just finished his first year of college, and I just got back from a trip with him because I drove any excuse I get to take a road trip,
Sure.
I'm like, sign me up. And so he was getting out of college. And he's like, well, I want to come home for the summer. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'll just drive out and pick you up in the RV. And we went up to, he was in Colorado. So then we went to Leech Lake, Minnesota. It's a little town called Walker, Minnesota. Leech Lake's the third largest lake in Minnesota. And we went there for the purpose of fishing, northern pike and what other whatever else we could catch that was in season. Had a great trip, three days fishing in total. Caught lots of fish and got back home like last Thursday. So yeah, he's still pretty active and we have a great time.
Awesome. So you're not stationed anywhere right now. You're just home
I'm
base.
home, home office, and I'll stay here and do a lot of out and backs, especially with the business. If there's an RV show, there's a music festival in Ohio this summer. It's called alive.org.
Okay.
Um, like 20,000 people. I think there's like 20 bands. It's at a 1,500 to 1,300 acre state park. And it's just a big music festival for 3 days.
I'm very pro music festivals. I hope to be able to get into that when my kids get a little bit bigger. We're just now sort of getting into our camping era. I grew up camping with my parents every weekend. My cousins, my aunts and uncles. Every single weekend we were at Joe Wheeler State Park usually is where we were. But also Tim's Ford, just local. We didn't really go too far off.
Hmm.
I was a Girl Scout from kindergarten until about sixth grade, and we were a very active troop, and we were camping all of the time, and we go on these week-long trips, camping trips, and I loved every minute of it. And m- say, okay,
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to chumbacasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at chumbacasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
so I was in the same Girl Scout troop for this long in a town of like 800.
Wow.
So, yeah, very small town, very
Yeah.
small group. There was probably, I don't know, 12, 15 of the same exact girls all of these years, and not a single one of them I made friends with. So it was definitely the camping that had me. And I just loved nature. I grew up on a lot of farms. Um, my I had one grandfather who had a horse farm, and then I had or raised horses. And I guess you don't call horses on a farm, but anyway, um, I had my other grandparents were farm hands, so we would travel around to different farms doing whatever needed to be done, whether that was putting up fencing or vaccinating sheep or, whatever. And then at my other grandparents, I had they lived on this gravel road, and it was really hilly. So she lived at the top of this hill. My dad's cousin lived next door to her. My uncle lived next door to him. Her brother lived like on the top of the hill. Across the street was her other brother. So they all lived on the same road and owned probably 200 acres, give or take, on both
Right.
sides of the road. So I had a cousin that was the same age as me, and we would get up in the morning at like 9 or 10 years old and take our BB guns and our pocket knives and go trekking through the woods. And we were at our grandmother's house, but we would come home for lunch and she would be gone. Who knows where she was at? And
Right.
then we would feed ourselves, usually with like squirrel or a bird we killed or something. So we would clean it, gut it, cook it. Sometimes it was edible, sometimes it was not, because
Right.
we're like 10,
Winging it.
11, and just figuring it out. But that was where I loved to be, was in the woods. So I always make, people were like, were you raised in a barn? Yes, I was actually. A few of them. And so this is how I grew up, literally in the backwoods, just completely lost in nature every single day from sun up to sundown.
Yeah.
And just wild. And unfortunately, my Girl Scout group dismantled when I was in like the sixth grade, which is why I didn't do it anymore.
Uh-huh.
There was no other options for me. And so, fast forward to we didn't really camp anymore. So we stopped camping as a family when I was probably 15-ish or so. And then I didn't anymore at all until about a year or two ago.
Wow.
My husband, borderline city guy, okay? Like he's not, but also they didn't camp. they didn't do wilderness. They didn't go out into the woods or really fish or like anything, right? So very polar opposites. And for years and years and years, I was like, let's go camping, let's go camping, let's go camping. And he was like, his idea of camping was renting a cabin in like at a, at a lake
Right. Right.
or in the mountains. So I would make fun of him because that's not camping.
Right.
And a lot of people would make fun of us for RV camping because a lot of people say that that's not camping.
Right.
And I am just happy with whatever baby steps I could get him towards.
Sure.
So after a few years of cabins in the woods and whatnot, we have a friend who got us into kayaking. So he started spending a little bit more time in nature. And he was like, okay, okay. And then we went on this overnight kayaking camping trip. And it took us so long to talk him into this. We were planning this trip for like 6 to 8 months because you can only take what you can fit on your kayak, right?
Right.
We were going to put in are you familiar with Crazy Horse at the Buffalo River in Tennessee?
No.
Okay, well, great place to check out.
Okay.
They have like three different types of kayaking adventures that you can do. And two of them are, you can do the upper portion, which is like 10 miles, and then so they take you upriver and then you float down to the campgrounds.
Right.
Or they had like a
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com. That's chumbacasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
5 mile where you put in at the campgrounds. And I might have these mixed up, but it doesn't really matter. And they'll pick you up downriver and bring you back to the campgrounds.
Right.
But they have a 16 mile also where they take you way upriver. You float as much as you can the first day, find a spot somewhere on the bank to camp overnight, get up the next morning and do the rest of the 16 miles all the way to the campground. So that was what we were planning. He thought we were crazy. He was just like, we're doing this. And he was like, ha, 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 right. And, we're getting closer to it and getting closer to it. And we're like, yeah, we're talking about what we're packing and what we bought and our gear and what we can hold. And hey, are you bringing this? Because we don't need two of them. And, and he's like, ha, 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 y'all are really putting on about this trip. And it got down to like 3 weeks until we were leaving. And he was like, wait a second, we're serious? You're serious? I'm not doing that. I'm like, no, we're doing this. We've been talking about this for like 6 to 8 months. You're not backing out now. Okay.
Right.
3 weeks until no, if you're not prepared, that's your fault. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So we went. It was a blast. And I'm so thankful that we had that experience and we had those friends that could kind of like peer pressure him into going.
Right.
Because, he can just tell me no. He'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. But he can't tell all of us no. Like he could, but it's way less likely. And
Right.
that kind of kicked off. He was like, oh, this is not so bad. And the next thing I knew, that was all it took. The next thing I knew, he had bought us we now have this was like 2 years ago, maybe. And in those 2 years, we now have like three different tents because you need like three different sizes depending on what you're doing and where you're
Of
going and
course.
who's going. And of course, we had the camper, which we're on our second camper now. So when I met you, we had just upgraded ours into because my husband's kind of a bigger guy. He's almost 6 foot, really broad shoulders. So he felt really cramped in the one that we had,
Right.
especially when you get the kids in there and everybody's trying to move around and do things. So he needed one that had like a slide out so that it felt bigger. But anyway, now we're camping every single weekend. He's been texting me all morning because school gets out this week. And he's trying to figure out, are we going camping during the week next week, or are we going camping on the weekend next week? And we are now in Cub Scouts, which I have somehow gotten suckered into being a Cub Scout leader.
Well,
So
it
I'm in the
only takes an
process.
hour a month.
Right. Right. Well, I'm in the process of that, and we're in a very active Cub Scout group, which has been wonderful. And we signed up for the kids, and it's been way more fulfilling and purposeful for us, probably. The kids don't even really know. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna go hang out with those people again." Okay. It's all us doing everything at this point.
Right, right.
They are getting older, so my son just did his crossover to Arrow of Light.
Yeah,
So he's getting to the age where things are fixing to really start getting
yeah,
in gear for him.
yeah. And I mean, it is so cool to watch the kids in those scout programs because you see them evolve, and you're like, when they're that first entry level cub, it's like herding cats. I mean, like
Yeah.
they're literally bouncing off the walls. And then by the time they get to the air of light, you're like, okay, they're starting to shape up. And then
Mhm.
fortunately, mine went all the way through and Eagle got their Eagle.
That's amazing.
And when you have a conversation with kids that have been through that program and compare them to a kid who has had no structure and that kind of stuff, it is night and day.
Hmm.
And it's the activity and the social side of it and the structure, and I think is really pretty awesome.
Which I really rebelled against at first because I'm kind of anti-structure.
Yeah,
I don't really like being told what to do or how to do it or what to wear, and that
right,
drove me crazy. But now that, but we're really, again, we're really fortunate to have an amazing group and some really awesome leaders, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So like now I'm a little less like fidgety about it. Even though,
yeah,
I was a scout but Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts are two completely different things. And I say Cub Scout, they're not Boy Scouts anymore. They
right,
rebranded, and I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about that. Um, but as female myself who has a daughter, and being going through the Girl Scouts program, even though like I was very fortunate to have a leader who really took us camping and did the things and taught us how to survive. Like we did a lot of what would be considered Cub Scouts things.
right,
Um, a lot of people that I've talked to who were Girl Scouts growing up didn't like I don't know of anybody actually I've talked to who had a similar Girl Scout experience to what I did. Most of them
right,
were like, I mean, we sold cookies, but other than that, we sat at a table and did some crafts, but that's
right,
about it. And I really wanted that experience for both of my children. And I was so, so, so thankful to have the opportunity to put them in the same program in our local town. So for one, I'm not my kids are really close. They're barely 3 years apart, and which is not a big difference at all. And so they're really close. They're really good friends. They have a lot of the same friends. They get along well. They still play together. They like the same shows. They play the same video games. So for one, when we got started in Cub Scouts, it was just my son. And it was so heart-wrenching to me to have to explain to my daughter why she couldn't do the things he was doing.
mm,
And oh, but she did do, she launched a rocket just like he launched a rocket. And now he's getting a award for his rocket, and she was just kind of glazed over. And
Yeah.
what's funny is that he doesn't care at all about awards. Like, not at all. But what's going to get me the trophy? I want the
Yeah.
trophy. I want
Wow.
the medal. I want the pins. Like, how do I get those? How do I earn them? Tell me what to do. She's so
Uh-huh.
competitive. And he's like, he don't care. He doesn't care at all. So,
Where's my shirt?
yeah. But there wasn't a Girl Scout brownie opportunity for her in our area at all. And if there had been, we're already strung so thin trying to get to all of the functions. It would have been a nightmare trying to make sure she got to all of her stuff and we did all of her requirements for the things, for the badges, for the patches. And then we have to turn around and do something completely different with him on a different night with different people and different requirements.
Yeah.
So I'm super thankful to us just, when they get like after Arrow of Light, they start branching off to, it does become Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So they do become separate when they become of age, which is like 11-ish.
Hmm.
But before that, it's just family oriented. It's just all of us doing it together, which is what it would have been, which is what it was already anyway, because
Yeah.
the Cub Scouts at that age have to have an adult, and so it was all four of us doing all the things anyway.
It was a family night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'll all smooth out, and I think ultimately they'll spin it into more of a youth leadership program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, totally worthwhile. But to your point, you really got to have an active leadership, and they do have the formulas if you follow the formulas. But if you don't have the experience, with camping, it's kind of hard to teach others.
Yeah. You're having to learn yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Can't
it's
learn yourself. You can't be learning how to yourself at the same time that you have all of these, not only the children, but their parents who have no idea they've never been camping, most of them either.
totally. I mean, we used to have, moms would come in, and whatever the situation was, it'd be a single parent, um, and the mom is bringing the kids in and trying to do the things that she thinks that a young boy is going to want to do, and takes him into the scout program. Has no idea how to pitch a tent whatsoever.
Mhm.
So everybody just kind of chips in, and but yes, those early experiences, I think that it's going to set that marker for whether you had a great time and you want to do it forever or not.
Mhm.
They say like 1 in 5 um, people that go camping for the first time will never go again
Oh man.
because
But
of preparation and didn't have a good experience.
right. Yeah, you for sure when you start, it is very, very beneficial to start going with people who already kind of know what to do and they've been doing this. And
That sense of community. Yeah,
but that's hard to find sometimes too. So,
it is, especially when you come from a small town.
oh gosh, I could,
That's
yeah,
I have a mirrored story. I mean, I was in rural Georgia, and I think there was like 3 kids within a 3 mile radius of my house. So
yeah,
it was me and nature. Um, so the our Cub Scout troop. I mean, I think we had 4 kids in it. And it was the mom that was leading it, and bless her heart, she tried. And coming from Alabama, you know what I mean when I say bless her heart.
oh yeah, oh yeah, bless them all. But at least they're trying,
Yeah, yeah, it was great.
and there's
And
it's
that,
so rewarding.
yeah, that to me, the whole planning process is as much fun. That anticipation, just like talking about you and your husband going for 6 months. You talked about it and you built it up and you planned, and that's part of the fun to me.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
We have You know those big old black and yellow tubs you can get from Lowe's?
Yep.
Okay, well we have like 4 or 5 of those. So we've been so this is like this is probably year we're definitely moving into our third summer. So 3 summers ago is when that trip that I talked about would have happened. And so uh, the group of friends that we went to in that original trip have stuck. So we go kayaking and camping with them almost every weekend, almost
Mhm.
every time every like people are each other's off. Like we go as often as we can. Um, Kayaking during the warm seasons averages probably 3 or 4 times a month. And then camping we try to do at least once a month. But we have our dynamic now, and that's kind of what you need is a dynamic. So like um my husband and our friend Melissa are the ones that decide where we're going and when we're going. I'm the one that makes sure everything's packed. Most of the time I don't even know where we're going. Like it doesn't matter to me. You just tell me when and how long. And I'm at we get there. We get there and like no one has sunscreen, so I'm the one that made sure that I packed sunscreen for everybody. So I'm not packing just for me, my husband, and the kids, but I'm packing for all 6 of us. Oh, sorry, how many is there? 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 of us that are for sure all the time together, and then there's one that sometimes he's off and sometimes he's not. But I love the packing process, and it's like a mental puzzle for me. If we're going tent camping, then you need these things. If we're going tent camping on with the kayaks, then you need these things. If we're in the RV, you need these things. Like it's just the whole, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. So in our app, we have, the concept of lists. So you can have packing lists, shopping lists, whatever. And carrying that concept forward, I want to evolve that into a set of templates. It's like you can see what somebody else's list is and like, oh, I'm going to start with that, get a
Yeah.
copy of it, and then you can just edit it.
That would be so helpful, especially for beginners. So
Yeah.
that's a great thing that your app would have a wonder. I bet it's wonderful for people who are just starting out getting into it and don't really know how to do it and don't really know where to start or what you need and don't want to have a bad time, or maybe they did have a bad time and they're not even really sure how or
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com. That's chumbacasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
what went wrong.
That's the goal. Yeah. To kind of make it a go-to resource to simplify, not necessarily. Um, it's I don't see it as a huge problem solver. It just has a lot of the functionality that you need in one place. Um, and for me, that was what I was after, and I didn't want to get sucked into the social media algorithms that manipulate your brain, and
Yes.
I just give me something that I can save my experiences because I want to have more fun in my experience than on an app somewhere,
Yeah.
which is kind of counterintuitive.
Well, a lot of people do the experience just to post about it on the app.
Yeah.
And you're missing out on because, one of the reasons that I kind of hate the word passionate, honestly, but about camping and being in nature and kayaking and all of that is because we've become so distanced from it in our current society and culture. And I think that if we could just make it more a part of our lives, it would heal a lot of the issues that a lot of us have with not only mental health, but physical health. And because, to be able to go camping and kayaking and hiking and all of this, you have to be somewhat fit, and you get out there and there's so many benefits to it, especially if you can find a group to go with. It heals that we have an epidemic of loneliness and lack of connection to people. We're communal creatures, but we've become so separated from one another that most of us are lacking in that connection and the fulfillment in your heart and soul that, we feel like something's missing, but we're not really sure what it is. Most of the time, it's connections to our tribe, our village. And if you can find just a handful of people that you can go out and have these experiences with and uh ha 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 dark humor half nearly die together sometimes because some of it
Yeah.
can be kind of pretty scary.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
you get on a kayak in a river with some rapids and it's been raining a little bit too much here lately. And now there's not only is the water going pretty swiftly, but there's all sorts of like debris, like logs and just debris. And it
Yeah.
can be you flip and suddenly you're pretty much in a life or death situation, even though most of the time it's quite mild and not anything to really panic over.
Yeah.
But it puts a
There
whole
was
different
a
perspective.
there's a scout trip the boys went on. It was a canoe trip in South Georgia, so they got in the river, and I think it was a 2 day or 3 day trip. Um, and they put the tents up on night one. It was kind of close to the water, but 8 inches or 6 or 8 inches or so above the water line. And everybody wakes up and their shoes are floating in their tent, and the coolers are like floating off. It had rained significantly upriver, and all of that water was making its way down, and so
Mhm.
the river was just slowly rising and submerging everything. And that was, yeah, they were kind of freaking out,
Oh, I'm sure. What an experience, though. You
right?
walk away from stuff like that with a story to tell for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
It's like, man, I lost my favorite pair of shoes that day.
yeah, and it gives you definite perspective. It's like some people are like, "How bad could it get?" And you're like, "Well, okay, now I have perspective."
And that's the thing, that's another thing that I love about it all is that I take my kids for, just 2 nights, a simple, quick weekend trip, tent camping, not even kayaking, just simple tent camping, sleep on the ground for a couple of days, and they come back with such better attitudes about everything. We all do. We all
Yeah,
come, we get grumpy and we're like irritable over dumb stuff that doesn't even matter. And you go out there with no air conditioning and sleep on the ground for a couple of days and you come back and you're like, wow, you know what? Life is all right.
yeah, it's gonna be okay
We'll battle the
until you go
elements
to
for
work
a
tomorrow.
couple of days. Because we go cold camping, like winter camping.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, yeah,
Did you
rain,
do
we don't care.
oh, you're not there yet. So, no, wait, you might be. Have you done the winter um camping in scouts?
Yeah, we did last year.
Uh-huh.
This year we got snowed out, iced out. Like, when we had it planned, there was a big old winter storm coming through. So like,
Right.
they're not about being dangerous or anything. They'll cancel for inclement weather, and we've had to do that a lot this year because of ice and snow.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to do the cold camp. We had it scheduled and then it got snowed iced out and then we rescheduled it and then that one got snowed iced out again and then we were kind of just out of winter.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, we went to somewhere in Minnesota
oh man, it was extra cold up there.
in February.
Yeah. See, we're kind of uh, even the dead of winter here in Alabama is quite mild. We're a little spoiled, so like we did we did all purchase winter sleeping bags this past year, and that has been highly recommend that. If you're stuck between do I get a winter sleeping bag or a summer sleeping bag, just get the winter sleeping bag, and then if it's hot, unzip it and stick your leg out.
Right. Yeah. Sleep on top of it. Use it for
Yeah.
extra cushion.
Yeah, yeah, and just grab an extra, like just grab a little thin blanket
Yeah.
for on top. That's definitely the way to go. And you learn these things as you go.
Yeah. I'm going through this phase, so I'm gonna have to do some repair on the RV because there's a slide out on the back, and it's the whole system is built on this cantilever kind of, and so when you hit rough highway, you're just bouncing, and all of that weight, will move things, break things.
Yep.
So I have some repair to do on that. So I'm going to do a little more tent camping this year, and I have to move from there's a big 4 man, it might even be a 6 man, but I think it's the big 4 man tent, REI dome tent to a more of like a 2 man tent. So I've
I
got to
love how
go
you
through
called
that.
it big.
Uh
I love how you called it big. We have a 4-man tent, an
huh.
8-man tent, and a 16-man tent that
Wow.
has 3 rooms in it. It's
Wow.
the same size as our camper.
Uh huh.
It's hilariously obnoxious. We went to Westmoreland. Are you familiar with that?
Uh huh.
Okay, we went camping there with the Cub Scouts just a couple of weeks ago and brought it for the first time because the 4-man's not quite big enough, honestly, for all 4 of us. Because
Hmm.
for people who don't know, a 4-man tent means that 4 people can lay down in it, and that's it. That's how much
Right.
room you have. There's no extra room for anything. So if you have 4 people going, you kind of need at least a 6-man tent to just be able to move around and change and stuff. But an 8-man tent is what's going to be really comfortable. Man, people were making fun of our 16-man tent that we had for the 4 of us, but let me tell you what, it was like a whole, um, like the safaris. When we were growing
Yep.
up, we saw safaris on TV and they had these
Yeah.
like huge elaborate tents and you walked in and it's like a whole like office on one side and a bedroom on the other side. That's what we had and it was amazing.
Wow.
So I'm all for, and my husband will be like, yeah, it's such a pain to put up. Not really. I mean, they're all kind of a pain to put up
Yeah.
somehow or another. It's really not that bad.
You
Now, and
make it a
if you're putting
family
it up by
event.
yourself, maybe you don't want to do all that. But if you have
Yeah.
help, it's okay and worth
And
it.
kids love to help on that kind of stuff too.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
My son tends to be a little more on the lazy side. He's getting better though. Now that he's understanding, that's the wonderful thing about Cub Scouts is it's very similar to the dynamic in martial arts.
Hmm.
I do that. And what I love about the dynamics is that as you progress as a student or as, a scout, you get more responsibility put on you. And people forget that children want responsibility. They want to be seen as an equal. They want to be a part of the adults' world. So if you start giving them a little bit of responsibility here and there, sometimes there's a little bit of pushback because they don't understand that cleaning your room is a responsibility in the same sense that they want it.
Right.
But if you give them responsibility of like, I need you to run this relay, like be in charge of this relay race and these younger kids and make them, get in a line and explain the rules to them and tell them how to do it. And they love that. And they walk away from it feeling more confident and
Hmm.
like they're capable, less anxiety. It's the dynamics of these things are invaluable and we're really missing out on a lot of them in our culture and our society. Somebody was talking recently on a podcast, I don't remember, um, about how we don't have any sort of like initiations
Hmm.
into adulthood. So
Hmm.
you have say you have a 25-year-old man, guy. It sounds so weird calling a 25-year-old a full-blown adult,
Right.
even for me. But I'm like these kids. But you know, you have a 25-year-old man and he's sitting there waiting like, am I an adult yet? I'm like, because I don't really feel like I'm an adult, and the quote unquote real adults in my life are still treating me like I'm a child. So when am I an adult?
Right.
And the thing about the initiation processes of, say, Cub Scouts, as you level up, they honor all the things that you've accomplished moving towards this moment, and they highlight all of the accomplishments that you're going to pursue in the next year and what all that means. And we're highlighting, I keep saying responsibility, but it's a lot more than responsibility. It's um we did, just this past Tuesday was our basically graduation ceremony. What is it called? The bridging over, the
Crossover.
the crossover ceremony. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we did a crossover ceremony with our, because we were in a different pack, and then that pack split off and made another pack that
Right.
was
Yeah, we
trying
did the
to,
same.
yeah, and they became the boy and girl, the co-ed. So that's where we're at. We kind of went with them. And so the first crossover ceremony was nothing like the crossover ceremony that we had this past Tuesday. The original crossover ceremony was very, it was like an award ceremony, which is fine, but there was no like emotional depth to it. There was no
Uh-huh.
like, it was just kind of like, okay, here are the rewards, congratulations, walk over the bridge, yada
Right.
yada. No big deal. But this pack, these leaders really made a point to like they told this whole story of which apparently like the other one had a story too, but like this one was just, I don't know, done better. And like, so you have the tiger, because each, for those who don't know, each level is like you have the bears and the tigers and the lions and oh my. And so each one of them, like we would roar like a tiger,
Right.
or roar like a bear and growl like a bear. It was just, it nearly had me in tears, because it touches that tribal village connection, initiation. And the kids went home just like, my daughter was like, I'm a bear now. And I was, yeah, yeah. She's like, I'm a bear now, and I get to teach the tigers how to do things, and I they don't know, and they don't know how to do this, and but I do,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell them now, and I'm gonna show them how to do it, and then
That's awesome.
then they'll, yes, it's so amazing. And it's gave me chills just talking about it just now. And we've lost those ceremonies,
Yeah.
and the ceremonies that we've kept have become so dull and agonizing. Like we have to go to the school award ceremony tomorrow, and I'm just like, God, there's nothing I want to do less.
Right.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
It's funny. I had forgotten about those crossovers, but I was a leader in Scouts for a number of years, so I saw a lot of different varieties. And you're right, there's a range. Like some of them are just amazing. Like the most memorable one, we have a Native American who was associated with Scouts, not necessarily in our troop, but in the area. and he's in the Order of the Arrow. Um, and they sent set up. He set up a full blown teepee, and we were like back in the woods, and there was like literally this little wooden bridge that you had to go over to get to this area, and they had the campfire out there and everything. It was only lit by torches and the fire, and he was on the drum, doing his Native American song, and just it was a full blown ceremony, and yeah, that gets emotional.
It does. It touches
And
the
it's
inner depths of your soul.
yeah, and kids are gonna remember that.
Hmm.
It's really pretty incredible.
Yeah, we need more of that more in our like society and culture. And I think the problem is that America is the melting pot, you
Right.
know. So we don't we've a lot of us have lost our culture and our connection to it. A lot of us don't know what culture to even like turn to and start as our own. And then when you don't have, because I mean, like we can all make our own traditions, but how silly do you feel making your own traditions with your friends and you get this drum circle out and you're like, no, we're doing the kumbaya together. And
Right.
like, so you might have like a one or two people who are like, yeah, let's go. And if you're lucky, honestly, but most people are like, this dumb's gonna stop.
Yeah. And of course, I'm going to try to put a camping spin on it, but if you really think about it, every single person on this planet has has come from a people who, at some point in time, were camping as a
Yeah,
primary, mode of existence.
yeah.
And you're right. We all come from these little cultural backgrounds, but they get lost over time, and
Hmm.
then maybe we're just rediscovering it. I don't know.
Yes, yes. And I think we should really put more effort into rediscover. Like, I have these one friends, the husband's like, yes, I want to go camping so badly with you. And then the wife's like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah,
not doing that. There's not enough air conditioner in the world. I'm
yeah.
not going. And
Where's the spa?
yeah, it's quite common, quite common. But like I can't begin to highlight the healing that you get from sleeping under the stars and like you and I say that not necessarily as meaning like you have to roll your sleeping bag out on the grass and sleep
Right.
literally under the stars. But sitting around a campfire, hanging out with your friends, looking at the stars, and we're like, is that you think that's a satellite or a plane? There's what constellation is that? And now that we have pretty well access to the internet wherever we go, it's that much more fun because I have
Oh
like
yeah.
plant identification apps. So, the kids will bring me a flower and I'm like, let's see what it is. Let's see what if it's good for anything. And so now we're
Right.
learning about that. Oh, look, it's a real life Pokemon. We found like a big caterpillar. It's like, oh, it's a real life Pokemon. And let's see if we can figure out what constellation this is or that is or what's in the stars tonight. It brings us a sense of fulfillment that is lacking in our community. And, you know, camping can be scary and we're definitely biased, but the benefits are just amazing. And the benefits grow and they build on top of each other. We never expected uh when I was trying to talk my husband into camping, I knew that nature was awesome and it felt good to be out there and I wanted my kids to experience that, but I never dreamed that we'd end up having friends that went with us camping all the time and that we would build these communal bonds and fulfill things within us that we've always been searching for and didn't exactly know what we were even searching for. We just knew that something was missing. It's like, oh wow, it's connection to each other and we found it here. Which you can
Living
find
in
at
the
other
light.
places for sure, but There's nothing like braving the wilderness and surviving a day or two. And
Right?
yeah,
Having
we're all
been
pretty
through a
similar.
journey together. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I did a last year. I called it my 40 days in the desert trip.
Okay.
And it was pretty darn accurate. I went out to there was a show that I went out to in Quartzsite, Arizona, and from there I wanted to just see what the desert was like. And what I learned is on my way out there, I was going through New Mexico, and it had just rained several days in a row, and they had what the desert they call it a super bloom, and everything the ground was green, the every all the flowers, just like everything pops at once. It looked surreal, and I'm like, I'm coming back, I'm going to camp here just first. And I did for a few days, and then i I found another spot that was up on top of the mountain overlooking Tucson, looking to the west, and it looked like Mordor, and Lord of the Rings when they're looking across the valley. And it must have been 90 miles, and horizon, visibility, and it probably 50 miles this way and 50 miles this way. And you really can't explain what you see and feel and experience until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat up on that mountain, no joke, for 8 days. I had enough supplies, and I was totally off grid, except for my Starlink satellite. I did have Starlink satellite, but yeah, I sat up on that hill for just days and watched the sunset and processed everything. Because you know, for me, I there's major phases in life. You have childhood, you go to college, and that's a major shift. And then you get married, major shift. Have kids, major shift. Kids
Mm-hmm.
get grown, kids start to move out, major shift.
Yeah.
So that was me last year. So I just kind of used that whole trip, as personal me time.
Yeah.
Um, Figure out, what does the next part of life look like? And there's a lot of processing that has to go, and you need time to really work through all of those things mentally and
Mm-hmm.
get everything lined up in in terms of some form of a plan, for life, because all your plans change. But
Mm-hmm.
it's really good to just sit out and have that time. And I get it now. The 40 days in the desert. Yeah, you'll do some introspection.
Oh yeah, complete transformation. You come back changed
Yeah,
for the better, and that's what I'm talking about with the healing. You come back with a different perspective on things, and you're not, suddenly you don't have road rage anymore, and you're just kind of moseying along instead of trying to drive fast and get there and get mad at everybody that's going slow, and the the perspective of it, not only from giving yourself space to think, which is all most of us need, honestly. We need just those beautiful views and the fresh air and the space to just introspect and prioritize and think about what the truth is, because a lot of our problems come from the stories in our heads. And so you get out there and you're like, okay, my kids have not abandoned me. They are just going through the natural motions of life, and this is okay. And well, did I tie my entire identity to being their parent?
right.
Well, who am I now? What do I want? Where is this going? Can I give them space to develop and spread their wings and experience life independently for a little while and just
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Maintain a safe place for them to come back to if they need. And um, a lot of people, if you go out into nature and just sit there and you're bored with that, that's probably exactly what you need to do more of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and people are like, what do you do when you're out there? And listening
Relax.
to you, it's like, oh, yeah, it's answering all of those questions
Every bit
that
of
are
them.
going off in your head. And I'm just like processing.
Yeah, because society and culture, the everyday hustle and bustle of life is too busy, it's too distracting, there's too many flashing lights, there's too many news um
A lot
sections
of
of
garbage.
oh yes. Oh yes, it's all garbage. And like and we get so wrapped up in it and we're comparing ourselves to others and we're thinking our priorities are different than what they are and we're searching for happiness and peace and it's like you find all of that in the doing of less. And
Hmm.
sometimes you need to just go out into the middle of nowhere in order to do the less. Because, if we're at home in our everyday lives, we have a little bit of choice and wiggle room, but for the most part, like we just kind of get swept away in all the responsibilities and the chores and the errands and the relationships that we need to maintain and the work and the making the money so that we can buy the groceries and like it's just all the things. But
Hmm.
if you go out into nature for a week, even a couple of days, it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Just go out there for a couple of days you start to realize that you can do with a whole lot less and be 1,000 times happier for it. So now
Right.
there's this story in Mexican culture, and I'll just give you the cliff notes so that I don't take up like 15 minutes with this. But basically, there's a fisherman and a businessman, and the fisherman catches 5 fish every day and 3 feed his family, and he sells 2 in town. And the businessman's well, how long does that take you? And he's like, like an hour. And he's like, well, what do you do with the rest of your day? And he's like, well, I like to take naps and I like to take my dog on a walk and I hang out with my wife and I play with my kids. And he's like, well, if you spent just 2 extra hours, you could catch this many fish, and then you could sell this many fish, and then you can make money, and then you could buy a boat, and then you could catch this many fish, and then you could sell them and make this much money, and then you can hire people who do all the fishing for you, and then you can buy a really nice house, and then he's like, well, what would I do then? And I was like, well, you could do whatever you want. The businessman, you can do whatever you want. I was like, well, that's what I do now. So when you, our culture and society we're constantly chasing the things that we think are going to make us happy because consumerism and marketing has told us that that's what we need in order to be happy.
Right.
Um, when really we just need a whole lot less, a whole lot less. Less is
That's
more.
that's
Minimalism,
good.
camping,
That's right.
nature. Nature provides.
Yeah. Yeah. You got my vote.
Mine too. Well, we can go ahead and wrap this up if you'd like. Tell people more about your app and what you have going on.
Yeah, sure. So, Camping Tools, the app, it's a website and a mobile app. We pitch it as an online journal, so you can plan your trips. It has social features, so you can share. Um, you'll save your memories, like you're gonna upload a photo or a video, and it goes to the timeline of your trip, and then you can share that whole trip with friends if you want to. So it has the things in it. This is, design that I've been working on for years. And it brings together the tools that you want, the utility um, that you want to have without introducing all of those algorithms that, trigger dopamine release every time you scroll and, you see a like and that kind of thing. So, um, we're trying to stay away from that. Kind of think of it as organic food for your brain. Um, it's a little more wholesome, hopefully, than what you get out of traditional social. But it still gives you the features that you want in the context of camping, so you can see what other people are doing. There's a marketplace out there. You can write blog posts about it. And for me personally, the thing that I like about it is that I'm capturing my story.
Mm.
And I'm saving it for my kids. I've got hard drives with pictures and stuff, and they're on my phone and the computer, and it's just the organization and maintenance of it all is just it will drive you nuts.
It's a whole
So
job.
this app, is designed to simplify some of that and make it easy to save your memories.
Yeah, because if you're anything like me, we've we have not yet been to the same camping place twice.
Hmm.
Um, unless you count our kayak camping, because there's only so many places that you can do that. So,
Right.
aside from that, because we do frequent the same locations with kayaking, because there's only so many places that you can do that. But as far as camping goes, we haven't gone to the same place twice yet, and it gets really jumbled in my head which place is what.
Right.
So, and like my husband with his memory. I don't know how he does it. Um, but he'll be like, "Oh yeah, this was what we did at this location, and this is what we did at this location." For me, it all kind of blends together. So I don't know if we were at um, David Crockett when we did that, or if we were at Honeycomb when we did that, or if we like it just kind of. So I imagine that would help keep that straight a little bit. I've been wanting to document our stuff a little bit better just so that I can keep my own memories
Right.
straight. Um, but I also really like the practicality because, people who are into camping and stuff generally like the utility stuff. They like to be practical. They don't like all the frizzles and the frazz. They want, is it useful?
Right.
And and especially if you're just getting started and you don't have anybody in your real life that can help you get started, who knows how to like point you in the right direction. And Googling everything is so overwhelming when you're starting from scratch. To search and read is that's a whole job in and of itself. It's much easier to have somebody that you can connect with who's done it. So I imagine that's really good for that. You can get on there and ask questions if you need questions answered. And like you said earlier with the lists.
Yeah. So we're actually implementing an AI component that does just what you're talking about. If you have questions, especially if you're new, just give me a good recommendation. You let- I don't, I don't need 20 different recommendations. I need one.
Hmm.
Um, and we're hoping that AI, trip planner, will answer a lot of those for the newcomers. So that would be cool.
Awesome. And I hope that people listen to all this and they're like, maybe, and they give it a try. They give camping a try, they give the app a try, and don't give up because just because you have one bad experience, everything is a learning curve until you figure it out. Everything's hard until it becomes easy. Literally.
That's
It will
right.
become easy, but it's going to be hard first. Everything.
And it's fun.
It is so much fun and so rewarding. But thank you
Well,
so
thanks for
much
having me.
for, yeah, this has been a blast. Thank you for coming on and letting me talk about all of this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. All right. We'll let everybody go. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.